See, are we live? Maybe. Soon. Hopefully soon. There it goes on YouTube. Let's see. Did Rumble start? Maybe. We'll find out. Cut. Paste. Well, the post is up. Let's see if the Rumble stream is working now. There it goes. There we go. So I was wondering if anybody had seen possibly a few helicopters flying around behind me at the end of yesterday's stream. They were doing some type of military exercise around here. I'm gonna look back through the stream again after I'm done with this one. I'm gonna check that out. Could have been pretty neat. Yeah, there were quite a few helicopters flying around here yesterday. Big ones at that. Some type of exercise. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find that, clip it, see what's going on with that. We'll jump right into it. Today is Thursday. Uh-oh. It's frozen. Okay, hold on. Is there anything I can do about that without restarting? I really don't think there is. Okay. Let me try one more thing. Off, on. Uh-oh. Okay, I think we're gonna have to restart the stream real quick, and then I'll be right back. My cord is messing up. Okay. Did it work again? Are we back? Are we back? Huh. Let's see. Okay, I think it's back. If anybody is in the chat able to type, not driving right now. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's working. Sorry about that, guys. Having a little bit of technical difficulties today. Okay. Okay, there we go. I guess we don't have to restart from the beginning. We'll just hop right back into it. Let's see. Chat's up. Everything's good. All right. Today is Thursday, January 15th, 2026. This is episode number 37 of Addressing the Issues. Since we're celebrating the Florida Panthers today, you'll notice my football's gone, and we have this Game 4 puck. Maybe you'll remember the Eastern Conference Finals, where Carolina, my team, finally beat the Panthers once in the last two series in the Eastern Conference Finals. You'll never take that one away from me. You'll never be able to. That was probably the most fun game I've ever been to in my life. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Obviously, the Florida Panthers are at the White House today, not the Carolina Hurricanes, but that's fine. But we'll hop into the news. I was wondering if anybody had noticed that. But yeah, you'll never be able to take that game away from me. So with one of we have two main stories today. If you have not noticed, the U.S. has not intervened in Iran yet. It has been claimed by a Saudi official that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman convinced President Trump in the final minutes before intervention to give Iran a chance. This seemingly would be in these countries' best interests to maintain the status quo regarding oil supply and controlling market volatility of oil. Two flights planned to move troops from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar to Greece were called off moments after President Trump's statement in the White House during the Whole Milk press conference yesterday, claiming he had been told the deaths in Iran would stop. The instructions to these two flights were return to chalks at OTBH, mission called off, stand by for further words, and stand by for further information. There was a notice to airmen until 7 a.m. this morning over Iran that Iranian airspace was closed, but it has since reopened to regular commercial traffic. It seems the Iranian regime will last another day. Now, I don't agree with them. I also don't agree with regime change, and in the ensuing refugee crisis is also, I doubt, is in our best interest. And surely not a prolonged Iraq or Afghanistan-style conflict halfway around the world is probably not in our best interest either. The Pentagon is still reportedly currently on high alert unless the decision is made that intervention is a go. We'll see if that changes from high alert to an action phase. Hopefully not. Moments ago, the U.S. Department of State released a press statement that reads, "As the brave people of Iran continue to fight for their basic rights, the Iranian regime has responded with violence and cruel repression against its own people. In response, the United States has designated the notorious Fardis prison an institution where women have endured cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. Simultaneously, the Department of the Treasury is sanctioning several Iranian security officials, including Ali Larijani, the Secretary of the Supreme Council for National Security. Additionally, Treasury is designated 18 individuals and entities tied to Iran's shadow banking networks that have laundered proceeds from Iranian petroleum and petrochemical sales. This action also further implements National Security Presidential Memorandum 2 of 2025. The United States stands with the Iranian people who are protesting for their natural rights. The regime continues to fund destabilizing and malign activities around the world rather than investing in the welfare of its people at home. We will continue to deny the regime access to financial networks and the global banking system while it continues to oppress the Iranian people. Today's actions are being taken pursuant to Executive Order 13553, which authorizes sanctions on certain persons with respect to serious human rights abuses by the government of Iran. Executive Order 13876, which authorizes sanctions of the Supreme Leader of Iran and his affiliates, or authorizes sanctions on the Supreme Leader of Iran and his affiliates. Executive Order 13902, which targets Iran's financial, petroleum, and petrochemical sectors in the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. So it sounds like for now it will be increased sanctions and no military intervention, but seemingly that could change at any moment with the Pentagon on standby. I guess not standby, a heightened alertness. In our second main story today, things got hot in Minneapolis last night. This is after an incident regarding an attack by 3 men with a shovel and a broom handle on federal law enforcement. The agent fired back in self-defense and shot the suspect in the leg. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement shortly after reading, "At 6:50 p.m. Central Time, federal law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted traffic stop in Minneapolis of an illegal alien from Venezuela, who was released into the country by Joe Biden in 2022. In an attempt to evade arrest, the subject fled the scene in his vehicle and crashed into a parked car." Sounds familiar. The subject then fled on foot. The law enforcement officer caught up to the subject on foot and attempted to apprehend him when the subject began to resist and violently assault the officer. While the subject and law enforcement were in a struggle on the ground, 2 subjects came out of a nearby apartment and also attacked the law enforcement officer with a snow shovel and broom handle. as the officer was being ambushed and attacked by the two individuals. The original subject got loose and began striking the officer with a shovel or broomstick. Fearing for his life and safety, as he was being ambushed by three individuals, the officer fired a defensive shot to defend his life. The initial subject was hit in the leg. All three subjects ran back into the apartment and barricaded themselves inside. The attacked officer and subject are both in the hospital. Both attackers are in custody. This attack on another brave member of law enforcement took place while Minnesota's top leaders, Governor Walz and Mayor Frey, are actively encouraging an organized resistance to ICE and federal law enforcement officers. Their hateful rhetoric and resistance against men and women who are simply trying to do their jobs must end. Federal law enforcement officers are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them as they put their lives on the line to arrest criminals and lawbreakers. Well, anyone who's ever dealt with winter weather knows that you can't use a shovel on ice. You also can't use a shovel on federal law enforcement. In the hours after we saw cars vandalized, federal property broken into, and flashbangs and tear gas deployed on rioters. Federal agents were forced to leave their cars behind after being surrounded by rioters before the cars were destroyed and broken into. Rioters stole and broke in the federal weapons lockers that were stored in the vehicles. Of these items stolen was federal paperwork with the outline of the FBI operation, containing full names of FBI agents, their phone numbers, their emails, the locations in which the agents are staying, locations where immigrants are being held, and instructions of how to enter holding facilities. Last night, Tim Walz made an address instructing Minnesotans to record federal agents and create a database to be used for further prosecutions. Probably not your best choice, Mr. Walz. Today he released a statement which reads, "I am making a direct appeal to the president. Let's turn the temperature down, stop this campaign of retribution. This is not who we are." In an appeal to Minnesotans. I know this is scary. We must speak out loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. We cannot fan the flames of chaos. That's what he wants. Here's my direct appeal to Tim Walz. Tim, let's practice what we preach. President Trump took the first steps to invoke the Insurrection Act this morning as he issued the proclamation to disperse as outlined in Title 10, United States Code Section 334. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, "If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in your once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT." Yes, there was actually a typo in it. I don't think it matters. I think you can understand what he meant by it. It sounds like he's tired of the riots and state officials that have done nothing but fan the flames of this incident. I would agree that this is something that cannot wait unless we're okay with rioters stealing and destroying federal property, obstructing justice and business, and burning down their cities. I would do it tonight. I think things are only going to get worse, especially now, given that they have access to the names of these agents and where they stay. I can only imagine that they will be harassed for the entirety of the night. I think that this is something that is long overdue, and it's only going to get more and more dangerous. It's going to probably surprise a lot of people when the military shows up, especially because all these protesters only use Blue Sky. They don't look at Truth Social, everybody's favorite social media platform. They should sponsor me at this point. If you would have told me that a video made by a 23-year-old YouTube journalist exposing Somali child care fraud in Minnesota would lead to this in less than a month, I would have told you to lay off the drugs. But yet here we are. Moments ago, FBI Director Kash Patel announced a reward of up to $100,000 for information related to last night's vandalism and theft of government property. So hey Kash, watch any of the videos or live streams posted online of last night. Run their faces through the database. I bet you can find them. You can make that $100,000 reward payable on my Rumble, either as a one-time or monthly donation, Cash. Thank you. But we are having an increase in violence in Minnesota, an increase in the riots, especially given that law enforcement's names, locations are likely being spread around by these groups. I think things are going to get a lot worse. I fear for not only the agents, but their families. I also do believe that the agents probably should have done a better job at keeping their stuff secure, not abandoning their property. I'm sure there will be punishment for that in some form or another because of operational security that they lost through the riots. But it's also not their fault. They shouldn't be harassed like this. They shouldn't be followed around like this. They should be allowed to enforce the law, unlike what Governor Tim Walz wants, what Mayor Jacob Frey wants. I do believe that those two in particular need to do a better job at managing the situation, making sure that the people of Minnesota, the people of Minneapolis, follow the law, maybe instruct them to go back to their jobs. I guess they are at their jobs. They're getting paid to harass ICE agents, which is bizarro world. But that's where we are. Governor, the mayor doing nothing to quash the riots, and President Trump seemingly has started step 1 of the Insurrection Act. So likely in the coming days, it will be enforced. It will be proclamated, the Insurrection Act, I do believe, unless Tim Walz and Mayor Frey are willing to step up, be leaders, and ensure that law is enforced, justice is served, not trying to target law enforcement against other law enforcement, like has been alluded to in their statements, claiming that they will turn state enforcement against federal enforcement is probably not a good idea if you want to stop the violence, stop the riots, and return to normalcy. I hope that they will listen to President Trump before the Insurrection Act has to be invoked. I also fear that they won't do it. That's where we are with that. Obviously, we'll see another night of it tonight. I would invoke the Insurrection Act before dusk. That's just me. I think we'll see one more night of riots before it's actually done. So yesterday, the House passed a $90 billion spending bill, which included $315 million in funding for the National Endowment for Democracy. The National Endowment for Democracy funding had attempted to be cut by Representative Eli Crane of Arizona, which had 81 Republicans join Democrats in voting for the continuation of this funding, this $315 million, in a minibus bill. The National Endowment for Democracy is funding that goes to NGOs, which participate in enabling color revolutions, regime change abroad, censorship, and campaigns of propaganda domestically. The bill with funding for the National Endowment of Democracy is currently off to the Senate, where they will have one last chance to remove funding for the National Endowment for Democracy, in which after it'll be sent to the president's desk. So, President Trump, if you're watching, I know you're hanging out with the Florida Panthers right now. Listen to this Florida man for a minute. If you're watching and this bill gets to your desk, the funding for the National Endowment, with the funding for the National Endowment of Democracy, veto it and tell Congress it won't be signed until the funding is removed. It is essentially privatized USAID, the arm of the government we voted against, we fought so hard to have removed. But this is also a version that basically has free reign to act upon our own country, against our own interests. A version of USAID that funds Democrat campaigns at a 20-to-1 ratio compared to Republicans. That's what we're dealing with here. This is a rogue NGO that allows censorship. It allows propaganda. Actually, it promotes both of these. Two things that are antithetical to our nation as a whole, our freedoms. What is the First Amendment? I can't believe that 81 Republican representatives would go across the aisle to, in a way, go against the First Amendment. That is completely ridiculous. It's not why we voted for you. And I hope that all 81 of these Republicans are being primaried, because this is, obviously, they're going to have a war chest from the National Endowment of Democracy, giving money to those who wish to destroy us. Nothing new for the U.S. government. That is true. USAID, we still fund Afghanistan till this day to the tune of tens of millions of dollars a week. People who do want us destroyed. I appreciate that comment. But these are people who hate Americans. They hate the freedoms that we enjoy. They hate the freedoms that we've fought for 250 years now for. The freedoms that make us different from the rest of the world. So if it does get to your desk, Trump, veto it. Get it out. Get rid of it. We can't have it. It's not American. It's not what we voted for. In our last story today, yesterday, the Department of State paused immigrant visa processing from 75 countries. Notably, to me at least, China nor India were included on this list. Two countries which abuse the system most through intellectual property theft, being China, and H-1B visa fraud, being India. I can only assume that this was a negotiating chip in the tariff discussions with China and India. An awful concession to make. But North Korea was not included on this list either, but I can only assume that's because none of them are allowed to leave their country anyways, so it probably isn't much of a problem in visa processing. But that was a terrible, terrible mistake to leave off those two countries. I think we should have a list of 77, maybe 78 if we're worried about North Korea. I don't think that these visa holders that come over here, they do steal our intellectual property. That's why we don't have high-speed rail. I talked about that in a really early episode. It's why young adults like me are having trouble getting jobs out of college, is because these jobs are being taken by people who undercut wages, and then they have their buddies come over in an H-1B visa scheme. So that's where we are right now. Absolutely abysmal that was left out. That's all we have for today. Make sure you guys are dropping a like on the streams, YouTube, Rumble. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe, turn on notifications. If you're watching on Rumble, I'd like if you'd subscribe or follow on Rumble, turn on notifications there. Drop a comment, tell me how you're feeling about the streams, how I could do better, things I'm doing that could be better, stuff like that. Topics you'd like to see me cover, stuff like that. I appreciate it. Any suggestions, I'll read through them all. I always do. like I said, that's all we have for today. If you'd like to donate, support me financially, there is the $sign on Rumble. You can click on that, make a one-time donation, a monthly donation, subscribe there. I put all the money back into these streams that I don't use for nourishment of my body. It's also not looking great on the guest episode for this weekend. I think what I'm going to have to do is just have another game night, either Friday or Saturday. So yeah, we'll probably do that. I might see if I can get a friend to play with. It won't just be me sitting there rambling the entire time, or maybe that's what you guys like. I'm not sure. We'll be a little bit experimental. I'll see if I can get a friend to come on. If not, it'll just be me. We'll hang out, play some games. You'll get to know me. I'll get to know you. We can talk about whatever you guys want during that. Yeah, it should be a fun time if that's what we have to do. If anybody'd like to come on the guest episode, anybody with any topic, feel free to DM me on X at Samuel_S_Jones. We can chat in the DMs what you'd like to talk about. I'm down to talk about anything, sports, politics, global politics. Talk about religion a lot on there, Christianity, stuff like that. So feel free to shoot me a DM, say, hey, I'd like to come on. I've got this, and this to talk about. And we'll do it. We'll record it over the next couple of days. If not, like I said, we'll have to just do a game night. It'll be fine. It'll be fun. I'll try and make it enjoyable for everybody. But that's all I have. Make sure y'all are dropping a like, subscribing, following. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. So all my people on the East Coast, I hope you make it home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong, get home safe as well. And I guess the theme for this week, be useful, guys. See you guys again soon.